Okay, your two sons both received speech therapy through, I think I know who HCS is if you're in Alabama. Since they were 3, you moved your oldest son to a church school this past year for first grade as things were not going well in kindergarten. He's hearing impaired. Anyway, they told me that they would no longer be able to receive services as they do not provide them for homeschooled kids or church school kids. Well, that's not true. There's a Supreme Court case or a circuit court of appeals case to where, and the law very clearly says that for equitable services for privately placed children, and I'm going to pull that up the law here in a second so you can see it, and so you can go back and really read it and absorb it yourself. But church schools are included; they can get these services. And so any kind of argument by a public school of separation of church and state is absolute nonsense when it comes to the use of special education funding in narrow capacities. Okay, but there's a process to securing that. And if they used to provide those services, and I know what you're talking about because we've helped families in your exact situation. And this school system has reversed themselves and continued to provide these because they did it in the past. But there needs to be a little bit of action on the part of your church school as well to partner with you on this in order to get those services going again, which it would behoove your church school to do this because they're entitled to public monies as well. Under this equitable format, okay? But they're not going to be provided unless they do something about it. But I'll show you as what the law says. So you just accepted it and you moved on. However, your other son will start kindergarten this fall. They're refusing services to him, and I was wondering if there was any way around this, since I was under the impression that kindergarten is optional in Alabama. It is optional as of right now in Alabama. You're correct, and you thought it wouldn't matter where he went to school for kindergarten. So that he would still receive speech therapy. So let's get to that. So what you have under the law, it's not homeschooled, okay? Because if you have him enrolled in a church school, but let's say it's a church umbrella or a homeschool umbrella. I really don't know. I don't know if you're in a co-op system or it's a tuition based. I don't know how that's classified. So I'm just going to go off of that it's a church school that you're paying tuition to. And providing these services. So under the law, there's something called, and this is the thing, a lot of parents go, oh, I've never seen this before. It's tucked at the end of the IDEA, okay? It's tucked at the end. It's after explaining due process and appeals, all that. It's at the very end of the IDEA. And that is the provision of equitable services to children with disabilities enrolled by parents in private schools. So it says no parentably placed private school child with a disability has an individual right to receive some or all of the special education related services that would receive if enrolled in a public school to the extent consistent with their number and location of children with disabilities who are enrolled by their parents in private, including religious, elementary schools and secondary schools located in a district served by the LEA. The provision must be made for the participation of private school children with disabilities in the program assisted or carried out under the IDEA by providing them with special ed and related services in accordance with this rule. And so this whole thing explains and lays it out, guys. It includes child find. Let's see. It also includes having them the LEA, meaning your public school, meaningful and timely consult with the school representatives, how they're participating, how the proportionate amount of federal funds available to serve these children is determined, including the determination of how the amount was calculated. All of these things are done in consultation, and it's got to be timely and meaningful with your private school providers, and it's in their interest as far as your religious school people who run it because they're leaving money, potential money and services on the table that could be a draw to other families in your situation, to where the public education system just isn't working for their children, but yet they do need, let's say, speech language or occupational therapy or some other instruction, just not what would be provided within the public school realm. And so this is where, let's say, service plans can be created, and this is a segment that was providing your child with those services before. But for some reason, your particular school system decided, hey, we're going to save a little bit of money and we're not going to provide that anymore. No, the law's still there. But the thing that you need to understand is that you don't have an individual right to file due process for those services. That has to be done through your religious or private school. They've got to sit there and make a complaint with the State Department of Education that they're being denied the service, or that their proportionate amount in the form of the school sending employees or contracting with employees to come in. It doesn't mean that you can't help your religious institution make those complaints and help put them in that position to where the State Department of Education comes in, starts sniffing around and asking questions about your school system and why they're not contributing in that calculation. You do have a right under child find, though, if your child hasn't been identified as far as whether they need an IEP or not. So under child find, you do have a right to file due process. But with regards to, let's say, only filing due process because they won't provide your child services, no. But if they haven't even evaluated your child, then yes, you have a right to due process. Then if your child is eligible, well, they're more than likely going to say, well, you need to enroll your child in the school. But you also have an opening to negotiate with them and say, what about your equitable funding? What about that? Let's try that first. And you may be able to persuade them. Okay? But read that section. So if you need it, just, or any parent, just tag me in the comments section. I'll send you this via email. And if you notice what the PDF pages are up here, it's at the very end, like 84, PDF page 84 of the law. And you'll see how, where all of this is, and it explains it in detail. And this is where you need to look to understand why your child was receiving services in the past and why they're not now.